live to remember it.
Grabbed an alligator and we went another round. Till we said with cannonballs and powder is behind. When we lit the powder off, the gator blew his mind. Fired our guns and sing along. Was nice many as was a while ago. Fired one small and we got right down the Mississippi to the Gulf. Ran to the browns and they ran to the browns and they ran to the bushes where the right would go. Ran so fast that the hounds couldn't catch him. Down the Mississippi to the Gulf. Take him by surprise if we didn't fire a musket that we'd see him in the eye. Held our fire till we could see him well, then we opened up our squirrel guns and really gave him. Fired our guns and the British kept it coming. Wasn't nigh as many as it was a while ago. Fired one small and he had to run down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Ran to the rise and they ran to the brambles and they ran to the bushes where the right would go. Ran so fast that the hounds couldn't catch him. Down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. We grabbed another gator and we won another round. Filled his head with cannonballs and powder his behind. When we lit the powder off, the gator blew his mind. Well, we fired our guns and the race kept coming. Wasn't nigh as many as it was a while ago. Fired one small and kept running down the Mississippi to the Gulf. Ran to the browns and they ran to the brambles and they ran to the bushes where the right would go. Ran so fast that the hounds couldn't catch him. Down the Mississippi to the Gulf.
Let's pray. Father God, we just thank you for this evening tonight, for the opportunity to honor one of our fallen heroes and those heroes that we still have among us. Lord, let us not forget to honor them as well. We're grateful for the opportunity that you give us, Lord, to live in this country of freedom, that we are able to assemble freely. We're able to commune together without worry of arrest or seizure. Father, we ask you tonight to bless this place. We thank you for heroes like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, those four founders, the fathers of our country, that we would bring this one nation under God once again. Lord, it is people like Jim Johnson that have given their life for this country and others. And we just thank you. We still live in a nation that is the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're grateful, Lord God, for all that you do for us. We ask your blessing and your presence here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Honor God. Hut! 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 Amen. Hut! Detail. Ho!
what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you for coming to what we're showing here. Medal of Honor winner, over and due from the past. Be seated. I will now read this citation as it is written on the plaque that will be hanging in our illustrious bar area here at the Memorial Building. James Edmond Johnson, Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, Company J, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division. Udam Nai Korea, 2 December 1950, declared missing in action on 2 December 1950 and killed in action as of November 1953. Medal of Honor citation reads as follows. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty while serving as a squad leader in the Provisional Rifle Platoon composed of artillerymen attached to Company J in action against enemy aggressive forces, vastly outnumbered by the well-entrenched and cleverly concealed enemy force, wearing the uniforms of our friendly troops and attacking his platoon's open and unconcealed positions. Sergeant Johnson unhesitantly took charge of his platoon in the absence of the leader and exhibiting great personal valor in the face of heavy barrage of hostile fire, coolly proceeded to move among his men, shouting words of encouragement and inspiration and skillfully directing their fire. Ordered to displace his platoon during the firefight, he immediately placed himself in an extremely hazardous position from which he could provide covering fire for his men. Fully aware of his voluntary action meant either certain death or capture to himself, he courageously continued to provide effective cover for his men and was last observed in a wounded condition, single-handedly engaging enemy troops in close hand-to-hand combat with hand grenades and also fighting hand-to-hand. By his valiant and inspiring leadership, Sergeant Johnson was directly responsible for the successful completion of the platoon's displacement and saving the lives of many. His dauntless fighting spirit and unfaltering devotion to duty in the face of terrific odds reflect the highest credit upon himself and the United States Naval Service and the United States Marine Corps.
Those who have served and those currently serving in the uniformed services of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agony of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. Before we begin our activities, we pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. We call your attention to this small table, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families. So we join together to pay humble tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner, alone against his suppressor. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their nation's call to arms. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood they may have shed in sacrifice to endure the freedoms of our beloved United States of America. The rose also reminds us of the families and friends of our missing comrades who keep faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon on the vase represents the unyielding determination for a proper accounting of our comrades who are not among us. The slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us tonight. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to the open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us as that many of them may never return and have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifice. May God forever watch over them, protect them, and their families.
Tonight marks the 60th anniversary of the day Sergeant James Edmond Johnson was declared killed in action. For the most part, we had forgotten Sergeant Johnson, and this dedication, this ceremony, and the assistance that we've had from the local media is to remind Pocatello who Sergeant Johnson is and how important that he is in our community, and that we never forget him again. With us tonight is Stephanie Johnson McKay, Sergeant Johnson's daughter. Next to her is James McKay, Sergeant Johnson's grandson. And on the end of the row, and I apologize to your lovely wife, I had forgotten her name already. Mary? Mary and John Alsop, Sergeant Johnson's nephew. Also with us tonight, Mayor Brian Bladd, Pocatello. Thank you, sir. Mayor Steve England. County Commissioner Paul Anderson. See, there you go. Steve Hadley. And unfortunately, Howard Manwaring was unable to be with us tonight as he has recently undergone surgery, and request that you remember him in your prayers this evening. Also with us is Kermit Morrison. He is a city councilman for Chubbuck and also represents the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And Charlene Young, who is a candidate for seat 6 for Pocatello. I'd also like to recognize Post 4 American Legion Commander Woody Woodman, District 6 President and Post 4 Auxiliary President for the American Legion Auxiliary, Barbara Wadlow, Marine Corps League, Stephen D. Merrill Detachment 698, Commander Ralph Lillig. If you notice, Stephen D. Merrill is also a fallen hero from Pocatello for whom the detachment is made. He lost his life in Vietnam. Also, I'd like to thank John White, our Bannock County Veterans Memorial Association President, Larry Hebden, our Vice President and Non-Commissioned Officers Association Chapter 888 Chairperson, Lori Davis, our Treasurer, and Eva Ackerman, our Treasurer, Lori Davis, our Secretary. Thank you all. Next, I would like to ask, I think we might have enough room up here, unless you'd be safer down there. Okay. Mayor Bladd and Mayor England and Commissioner Hadley and Anderson, if they would please come up. As they come up, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to Mayor Bladd. For far too long, Pocatello has been unrepresented by the city at our events. We had the opening of the Veteran Sanctuary. We also do the Field of Heroes every year in town, and nobody was there from Pocatello. Mayor Bladd's election was a godsend to us, and he has been there for everything for us, and we very, very much appreciate that. I know in confidence you told me you had apologized to me for not being a veteran, and I forgive you. Your support is extremely important. And also, at all these events and previously, Mayor England was there at every one, usually alone, but now he has a partner in crime for these, and we do appreciate that. I'd also like to thank the county commissioners for all their help, and it's with their assistance that made this possible. And that's right, you are a veteran. And he also is in charge of us county-wise as far as our funding goes. I'd like to turn this over to Mayor Bladd, and can I please have Stephanie and James come up here, and I will get out of your way.
Well, thank you very much. It's very kind to say. It's indeed an honor for the three of us to be able to be here and present this proclamation together. Now, a lot of times you'll just have one person read the proclamation. Not anymore, not in Pocatello or Chubbuck or Bannock County, I don't believe. If the three of us or the two of us are there, then we read it together because we're unified. And it's indeed an honor to be able to do that. I will go ahead and start. A proclamation. Whereas James Edmond Johnson was born in Pocatello in 1926.
And whereas James joined the United States Marine Corps upon his graduation from high school and was sent to fight in the Pacific Theater of Operations during World War II, specifically seeing action in Peleliu and Okinawa.
Whereas on December 2nd, 1950, Sergeant Johnson's courage and selfless action earned him the Congressional Medal of Honor.
And whereas during the Battle of Chosin Reservoir on that December day, Sergeant Johnson did not hesitate to take charge of his platoon in the absence of their leader, and then, when ordered to displace his platoon, put himself in an extremely hazardous position in order to provide covering fire, and was last seen wounded but still fighting enemy troops. And
whereas Sergeant Johnson was listed as missing in action after December 2nd, 1950, and was then declared killed in action, body not recovered, on November 2nd, 1953. And
whereas Sergeant Johnson's heroic action that day saved the lives of the men in his platoon and earned him the United States of America highest military honor for personal acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty. And
whereas Sergeant Johnson's actions have been forgotten far too long, and because our city, our county, our state, and our nation owe much to Sergeant Johnson, and wish to remember and honor his brave actions and selfless service to his platoon and his country.
now therefore, we the undersigned do hereby proclaim November 2nd, 2013 to be Sergeant James Edward Johnson Day in Pocatello, Chubbuck, and Bannock County, and urge our citizens to remember and recognize a true American hero for his bravery and for his ultimate sacrifice.
That ends the proclamation ceremony. I would like to remind everyone that he gave his life that we might be free in this country. With freedom comes the right to vote. I encourage each of you to go out and vote on Tuesday.
Please do not go away, Stephanie and James. Sergeant Johnson's senior year at Pocatello High School was cut short when he got his parents' permission to join the United States Marine Corps and fight for his country during World War II. He did not graduate. I'd like to introduce a special guest, Mr. Cotant. I apologize if I butchered that. Principal, Pocatello High.
But it's a great honor for Pocatello High School and School District number 25 to present this diploma to Sergeant Johnson's relatives so that they might have this for their memories.
I'd like to read an email that was sent to me by a good friend of Sergeant Johnson who served with him in Korea. From Watson Crumby, Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. I regret that I cannot attend the dedication to James Johnson. I will be with you in thought, and Jim will be with you in spirit. Having served with Jim in Korea and at the Chosin Reservoir, I can testify that there is no one more deserving to be honored and recognized. The unit that Jim commanded in an emergency situation at the Chosin Reservoir in North Korea during the winter of 1950 lasted less than 12 hours and disintegrated at dawn when the individuals returned to their respective units. For that reason, there is no written record of its existence. What Jim did during the short time of its existence is documented. He saved the lives of several Marines at the cost of his own. As a result, he was also responsible in thwarting the Chinese attack on a vital position. He is deserving in having bestowed upon him the nation's highest award, the Medal of Honor. It was not only my privilege to have known him, but an honor to have known him as my friend. I was extremely pleased and owe a debt of gratitude to Professor Terrence Barrett, who realized the event of so long ago had been forgotten and wrote, "Remember James Edmond Johnson, United States Marine Corps," which brought to life Pocatello's #1 hero of the Korean War. For all of us to know, honor, and remember. Semper Fidelis. Watson Crumby, L411, Korea, 1950-51. With that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Terrence Barrett.
It's a privilege to be here. I'm touched by all of you. I want to thank Tom Daniels and the association for the invitation to be here. Unexpected, but I'm glad to be here. As you know, I did write a book. I have a lot I could tell you about Jim Johnson. I'm not going to repeat a lot of things that you just heard, but I am going to tell you some things. And I pause now because I pause. Remember something that we learned on the first day of our military training. How to salute. Who to salute. Enlisted men and women salute officers. Lower-ranking officers salute higher-ranking officers. In the Marine Corps, everyone salutes the commandant. He's a four-star general. The salute is not given. It's rendered and it's exchanged. It's not a greeting. It's an immediate sign of respect, exchanged. By observing how a salute is rendered, you can see how much respect is being extended. Some salutes are sloppy and they're given begrudgingly. Most are obligatory and routine. It's just what we do. There are some salutes that are sharp and crisp and they snap. There's a sound like the American flag caught in a breeze. Those are special salutes. The Medal of Honor is a symbol to reflect the highest credit upon the recipient. There is no higher award that can be extended to anyone in America. All the services have set their own standards by which they will recommend this medal. Now, I can tell you, I have a little bit of bias about the Marines, so please excuse me for that if you were not a Marine. The Marines believe that anyone who graduates from boot camp is brave. The Marines believe, obviously, anyone who goes away from home and serves in a combat theater is brave. So this medal is special. This bravery must be exemplary. It must be beyond obligation and duty. It must, interestingly, be distinguished from all common acts of bravery in combat. Can you imagine? Common acts of bravery. The person must obviously have put themselves in peril, at risk, potentially to the loss of their life. The actions must be uncontested by those who witness it and beyond criticism. Sergeant Johnson earned this medal. If he had come home from the Chosin Reservoir and stepped into the Pentagon wearing around his neck this medal, everyone in that building would have stood and saluted him, including the Commandant of the Marine Corps, a four-star general. That's the respect due him. The dedication of this room tonight, your presence here, is a salute. Deserved. And as I've witnessed, It is sharp and crisp. And the reading of that citation snapped. And I hope it touched you. I also know from what I've learned about Jim Johnson that if he were here and he was witnessing all this, he'd be grinning. That's who he was. There are words in that citation that we should pay attention to. Voluntary, valor, courageously, valiant, undaunted fighting spirit, unfaltering devotion, frightful odds, and he would be grinning. Those words, that citation is a testimony to the young man that Jim Johnson was and the spirit and character he possessed. And he is an example to all of us. So, before I tell you a little bit more about him, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. I want you to imagine that I'm going to ask for you to raise your hands. Show of hands. But I'm not asking you really to do this, so please don't raise your hands. Imagine that I asked, would you raise your hand if you consider yourself to be a brave person? Imagine instead I asked, look to the person on your right. Look to the person on your left. Would you instead say, now there's a brave person? Bravery and heroism are serious things, and often they're hard to talk about, especially if you're the one being acknowledged. It's been nearly 40 years that I've been listening to men tell what happened in combat. And I know they will acknowledge fear, anger, sorrow, and guilt. Bravery? Not heard it yet. There's a resistance to it. So when I say to a combat veteran, that was brave, I can predict what I'm going to hear. I've heard this often enough. Bravery? I wasn't brave, I was just doing what I had to do. I did what anybody would have done. Remember that citation. Or, I'm not much of a brave person. Or, I'm no more brave than any guy. Or my favorite. And I have heard this many times. I was in my 20s. I just thought I was being stupid. And then the question is posed back to me. Seriously, what exactly is your idea of bravery? Now, this is coming from people who are unquestionably brave. That's a reasonable question. It's hard to explain what bravery is because it's determined by actions that are observed. We don't see it necessarily day to day to day. So to say you're brave means I saw you do that. That's brave. But I thought that that question really deserved an answer. So I started studying bravery. I had no intention to write a book. I was studying bravery as a component of therapy for post-traumatic stress. And in order to understand that, I know and understand the Medal of Honor. I also know in my history Iwo Jima. Now all of us know Iwo Jima because of the flag raising. 5 Marines and a Navy corpsman magazine articles, books, movies written about them. We know them. What most people don't know is that there were 22 Marines who earned medals of honor on that island. I knew that, and I thought, now here's a place to study bravery. I'll get their citations. I'll read through their citations. I knew some of them by name from history, but I didn't know all of them. There were some in there that had undoubtedly wonderful stories to tell. So 22 citations, and this is what I learned. First of all, there were two that lived nearby me that I never knew, never heard of them. They were within walking distance of my home to a graveyard. Charles Berry being one of them. I make it a point now whenever I go home to stop there. Missed opportunities to know and understand, know their story, be inspired, look up to. The second thing, I'm taking notes and I'm trying to be scientific and professional, so I have to write something down that sounds professional. So I make a note something like this. Bravery that reaches into the range of heroic requires unordinary strength and courage, and appears to be characteristic of the person across time and circumstances all the way back to childhood. That's a question that often comes up. Is this an ordinary person? Would this person be identified in childhood, or are they just like everybody else? There's something about them that's identifiable. They are willing to put themselves at risk on behalf of others. And because they do that, there's unordinary outcomes. This is an unordinary outcome. If you think of the numbers of men and women who serve in our military who will never have this, this is an unordinary outcome because of what Sergeant Johnson did. Exemplary. The third thing I learned is reading about bravery, reading about brave people has an impact. It had one on me. When I would try to tell their story, especially Charles Berry, who lived nearby, sometimes I would feel goosebumps. Other times I would feel a catch in my throat and not unnecessarily feel tears in my eyes. Bravery has an impact. And part of the impact was I wanted to read more. There's 292 Marines, now 294, who've earned this medal, going all the way back to the Civil War. I had the book, I read their citations. Trying to understand bravery. From that, now the citations as it was read, unless you have a picture of Jim Johnson reading his citation, you don't know what he looks like. He's a Marine, so I'm picturing square jaw, broad shoulders, muscled. Now, fortunately, around this same time, the Marine Corps History Division started profiling their Medal of Honor recipients. Now I go to their website. I selected 181. World War II, 82 men. Korea, 42. Vietnam, 57. Not only their citations, a picture, a photograph, and some biographical information. Hometown, family, names. This is the information I wanted. I want to know what are the influences on anyone to do the things they have done. What makes it exemplary? Where does this come from? So World War II first, went through those. The pictures on their profiles, official Marine Corps pictures, often in their blues, sometimes in their greens. Vietnam wasn't like that. Often it was in their boot camp because there wasn't time to get the dress blues. Some of them never had an official photograph. It was their high school yearbook picture. But I'm looking at the images, and when I'm in Korea and I get to Jim Johnson, I have to tell you, this picture stopped me. Here is a casual Marine, corporal, in uniform, sitting in one of those olive drab green chairs that stick to you if you're sweaty. And it appeared to me that he was probably waiting for a clerk to pass him his orders. But there was that grin. My reaction, I wonder what he's thinking about. And I heard that over and over again from men who knew him. Whenever you saw him smiling, you wondered what he was up to, because you knew it was something. And at the time, no one knew he was from Pocatello, and he was supposed to be doing that. The smile was a constant for him. And that's when I turned strictly to him. I wanted to learn as much as I could, and I was fortunate to meet friends who had served with him, Watson Crumby being one of them. Stephanie, I was very fortunate to track down randomly through just sending letters, hoping that someone down in Georgia or Florida might respond to me and say, yes, I'm Jim Johnson's daughter. So you've heard some things about him, his actions. Now I'm going to tell you just a few things about him. There are some things known about his childhood, about the challenges he faced, the family that he grew up in. And I'm going to tell you something about Medal of Honor recipients because they all share this one characteristic. They had challenges in childhood, all of them. They weren't uncommon challenges necessarily, but they had challenges. And if they didn't have enough of them, they created their own. And rather than be overwhelmed, undermined, give up, give in, Jimmy Johnson overcame them. And one of the ways he did that was with humor, lightheartedness, good-natured. He had an affiliation for other people. He was drawn to other people, and they were drawn to him. Everyone told me everybody liked him. He was a likable person. So here's a couple of examples of creating your own challenges. These are, I just want to introduce this to you. Junior high and grade school, his classmates remembered him as one of the shorter boys. So what sport does he play in high school? Basketball. He was strong in his opinions. He liked his opinions. That wasn't good enough. He joined the debate club because he intended his opinion was going to win the day. No one was going to better him in a debate. And if there's any question that he sought challenge, at the beginning of his senior year at Pocatello High, 17 years old, the war was ongoing. There was some concern that it was almost won, and he went to the draft board and enlisted himself because he wanted to fight for his country, and he didn't want to miss the opportunity. So he did fight at Peleliu. He did fight at Okinawa, two of the bloodiest battles towards the end of the war in the Pacific. Came home in '46. He worked at the Naval Ordnance Plant for about 10 months. Not challenging enough. Decided to go to college. Wanted to be a teacher. Apparently he was an excellent math teacher. Well, he'd have to be. He was an artilleryman. He needed to know numbers and how they worked. He went to college for a year, not challenging enough. Re-enlisted in the Marine Corps. Went to Quantico in June. Met a woman who was bedazzled by him. He to her. And then there's something else you should know about him. Teachers would say he was smart. He was independent. He liked to do things on his own, and he was self-confident. Now think of adolescents and young males in Marine uniforms. Self-confident, she saw it. He was cocky. And they married, they had a daughter, July 22nd, 1950. Stephanie's born. Jim leaves 5 days later for Korea. Another challenge. He volunteered for combat duty even though he did not have to go. The Marines at the Chosin Reservoir would say he was as cocky as ever. Undaunted by the circumstances, smiling through the cold of it all. Imagine. So when Jim stands up for his platoon, he has AK-47 bullets across his chest. There's grenades going off all around him. He has an understanding of likely the outcome of this. Now, he had spent time making sure casualties were taken down the hill. Didn't have to do that. There were injured Marines around him. He ensured they were down the hill and not left there. He gathered grenades knowing that the others were going to be sent back to the line. He took their grenades knowing what he was going to do. And he sent them back standing in front of them as they went down the hill. Unfaltering devotion. So why is it important to remember James Edmond Johnson? He is a reflection of what is best in America. He is a demonstration of the character we seek. And I do worry sometimes today when I see the heroes, our young men and women, the character that these individuals have, that they are looking up to and wanting to imitate. Sergeant Johnson presents to us a picture of true character. His hometown, his school, and most definitely his family share in the honor that he brought here. God bless all of you, and God bless America.
Tonight, we will also be collecting donations, strictly voluntary, for the Snowball Express. Snowball Express is sponsored by American Airlines. American Airlines also a sponsor of this event, which transported the family here to be with us. We much appreciate that. Snowball Express is a program that helps the children of our fallen from September 11th till today. They get all these kids together in Dallas, Texas, every year. It helps put them with other children who have experienced the same loss, the loss of a parent. And it helps them come to terms with that loss so that these children do not withdraw within themselves or become angry and let their grades slip, become a victim. It helps them realize what their parent had done for them, father or mother. And being able to be with other children who've gone through the same thing, they come out of this with a better outlook on life. And so in the back, in the other room, we have a canister, if so willing, to donate for this worthy cause. They will be meeting again here in December. American Airlines will send 8 of their jumbo aircraft around the country to collect these kids and their surviving parents. And so we'd appreciate it, anything. I'd also like to recognize Precision Windows, who has already donated $250 to this cause. Also tonight, I recognize several individuals. I'd also like to thank Under Western Skies. When I put out the call for a band to donate their time for this event, Under Western Skies was immediately on the spot and volunteered very quickly. For that, I am deeply grateful. And we will be able to hear some more from them in a moment. Now I'd like President of the BCVMA, John White, to come up to the ribbon. Stephanie and James, if you would also join him there. As this building is also rented to the public, it will not just be the veterans who come here who will see Sergeant Johnson's smiling face above the serving counter. Many people from our community will come through here. They will see his face above the bar and say, "Who is that?" And we will tell them. There's also another famous photo taken of Sergeant Johnson. This photo was taken during the battle at the Chosin, sometime between November 27th and December 1st. Life magazine photographer David Duncan, himself a Marine Corps veteran of World War II, captured many heart-rending images, none perhaps quite as poignant as this one. Even more telling was the three simple words spoken by this Marine. Upon capturing the image with his camera, David Duncan couldn't help but ask this Marine, "What would you like for Christmas?" His simple answer echoed the hope of so many young Marines facing a hopeless situation at the Chosin Reservoir. He replied, "Give me tomorrow." And though Sergeant Johnson did not get his tomorrow, his selfless actions at the Chosin on December 2nd, 1950, ensured that countless others and other generations got their tomorrow. Thank you all for coming.
You want me to get the